Scouting Report.
As a reminder, the Scouting Report segment of the Belated Binge podcast is where we put the spotlight on one particular character for the chapters that we read and just see what we learned about them and see if we can pick them apart a little bit. I was kind of on the fence about who to focus on this week. My first thought was Molly Weasley, but we did our whole Theory Corner episode about her. Reminder, go become a patron to get that. So we're going to go for the offspring and highlight Ron. A few things worth noting about Ron in this episode. He's extremely self-conscious and filled with self-doubt in being able to stand out in some way when his brothers have all done seemingly everything before. Prefects, head boy, Quidditch stars, everything short, we think, of being knighted by the queen herself. He fears not only falling short of the family bar, but also ever being able to do something cool enough to differentiate himself in the slightest. Little does he know what lies ahead before him. And being friends with the Chosen One and defeating Voldemort, not bad. He's also incredibly embarrassed about his family's economic status. Being poor is something he's completely ashamed of. He didn't even want to eat Harry's pile of candy at first, trying to play content with the sandwiches he had from Molly as if, this is normal. This is all good. This is, a thing. But his face, and honestly, Rupert Grint, his facial expressions as Ron in the movies, particularly these early ones when they're super young and none of them know how to act yet, you can see it. The discouragement, just the kind of the embarrassment of, nope, can't afford any of that good tasting candy, but I've got these sandwiches that I'm not stoked about. He starts informing Harry about how the wizarding world works, and this is the very beginning of him being our, via Harry, lens to learn about the wizarding world, which is a role that he fills throughout the entire series, no matter how useless the movies insist on making him, despite how great Rupert Grint's facial expressions are. He's also loyal. He immediately stands up for Harry, as well as his family, to Malfoy and his goons when they come in and throwing around insults. Like, he's ready to go. He's brave. He's a little hot-headed. That same altercation was sure to end one way. He and Harry lying on the floor. He didn't care. He was ready to knuckle up and go down swinging in defense of people he cares about, even though he and Harry just met. This is the absolute definition of being ride or die from day one. Ron has a lot of flaws. A lot of flaws throughout the series, and we're going to have plenty of moments that make us question whether we love him or hate him as part of our trio, whether he's holding up his end of the bargain. How useful is Ron, really? We're going to think that a lot of times throughout this series, I think. I was just listening to another podcast that talked about that they're in book 7, where the trio is going camping. And if you want to hear their podcast, it's The Fox and the Foxhound, and it's fantastic. But they're in book 7 where the trio are camping, and they brought up the chapter when Ron is about to take off on them and how he's really not pulling his weight. He doesn't have any ideas. He's just complaining a lot, and it's not a good look for Ron. And that might actually be the bookend of it. That might be the last moment that he has in the real worst of it. But there's a ton of them leading up to it where it would be really easy for us to sit here and say, it's the Harry and Hermione show, and what's Ron doing there? But the groundwork is laid in this chapter for him to truly be a real key asset to this trio when it gets, to the time of them being a trio, because he does have a tendency to come through in the clutch. And it all starts here. Also, he's really good at chess. And they could have explored that strategic mind a little bit further. But they didn't.
The Belated Binge Podcast.